I'm Ryan Wetzel. I'm the grandson of Walter Blackie Wetzel. Born and raised in Montana, Blackfeet Nation representative. I've been involved, with this whole journey since the passing of my father last year, and for many reasons, being part of this family lineage, it's something that has been passed down to myself to help carry this story along and to make sure that there's the right representation of my grandfather Blackie, the logo that he had designed and brought forward, and to carry on our legacy. It's something that is near and dear to my heart, and it is very near and dear to my family's heart to make sure that we never forget who Blackie Wetzel was and what he stood for, and that's unity of all people, all nations, no matter what color, creed. It was his vision to bring light to Native American communities with a logo such as this behind me, and it's something that I feel this story is powerful and one that needs to be told, and I'm grateful for it. My wife, Brooke Wetzel, she's an artist, landscapes and such, and she's very well known. And what she had done as a gift for me was paint this landscape in the background with the logo prominent on the photo or on the painting itself. And what's significant about it is this landscape that's in the background of the logo is on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Montana. And that mountain there is significant. It's Chief Mountain. And Chief Mountain is something significant in our tribal history. A lot of times you'll see the war bonnets that are feathered back. That is traditional in many different tribes, but you look at the Blackfeet Nation, their war bonnets are upright. And the significance of that is, strong and confident Native American people. And Chief Mountain is the significance of history and pride and strength with our people. We call it the stronghold. And the other amazing part of it is I have a brother who's a disabled war veteran. He fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he's also a disabled police officer. His Indian name is Chief Mountain Warrior. And so not only is that significant to our tribe, but it has a deep meaning and impact to our family history and our lineage, and something that we honor through our family tree through and through. Well, I learned of the story when I was young. My grandfather, I'd spend a lot of time with the guy, and we would always have Redskins things going on, games on TV, and we were always so proud of the team simply because of grandfather's connection with that logo. And I remember, the story was around, I was in my early teens, 12 years old ish, where we sat down one summer, and it was just he and I, and he went into the whole story and experience of how he presented that to the then Washington Redskins organization. He befriended Mr. Cook at the time, and explained that if we're going to be representing Native American teams with imagery and such, let's get this R off the helmet. And here, I got something for you. And he blessed them with this logo, and they used it for 50 years. And through the history of that, it started to really impact me as I got older, especially after my grandfather Blackie had passed, that this is something that not everybody has experience with. Not everybody has a story such as his, and not everybody can say that, hey, this logo was connected to our family. It's one of pride. We are fortunate to have the story to share with people, and not a lot of people know the true story behind it. And so it's something that I've always held near and dear to my heart, as well as my family. We wouldn't refer to them as the Redskins. We'd refer to them a lot of times as Grandpa's team. There's Blackie Wetzel right there, and to see that people would be representing the logo and had no real understanding of this true American legend and what he has accomplished, it's funny now to look back and say, well, now his story is being told, and that's something that we love for everybody to understand. Grandpa Blackie was kind of a, as they would say, he was a wild gun at times, and he would talk about how to do something, and then he would put it to action, and oftentimes, and if you got to keep in mind, this is a Blackfeet Indian man from an actual reservation back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Keep in mind, there wasn't a whole lot of voice for our people in those times, and Blackie didn't view it that way. He looked at his status as a successful tribal chairman, a chief to his tribe, his representation of all nations in the United States. My grandfather became, uh, you know, I would say, confident in the fact that he had the power to maybe sway this NFL team into utilizing an actual profile in his collection, something that he had envisioned and designed himself, that he maybe with his clout could step up and do something that would be so impactful that it would change the way of the NFL and in the face of a franchise. And so in his collection, he had a number of photos and drawings and whatever, and he had put it together in his mind that, if we can come up with some type of profile, that being a actual Native American warrior of some sort, that if he were to put it together professionally and appropriately, that it would be hard for this organization to say no. And so with his ideas, he created this profile and presented it and explained that this is something that is from my tribe, myself, my people, and it is of a real origin and entity that exists thousands of years. And my hope is for you guys, talking to the Washington organization at the time, is you need to use this if you're going to be representing my people. Now, being the former president of the National Congress of American Indians at the time, he was the representation of our people. And so he had the confidence and the backing from tribal nations to do something like this. He couldn't come in and tell them to change the name or anything like that. He didn't mind that. He in fact raised us children more so than others, to take pride in being red, the red nation. We refer to ourselves as the red people. It wasn't anything derogatory. In the old terms, it was, but things change over time, and so you have white societies, black societies, yellow societies. Well, then the Native Americans are the red society, and so that's the piece that I always had near and dear to my heart. That was more far impactful than any negative, because at that time, again, you had a lot of anti Redskins names, anti Redskin supporters. They didn't want the name in, that were part of the American Indian movement. I have a great story recorded from my great uncle Earl Barlow, who just recently passed. He's another amazing Native American man. He had long conversations with my grandfather Blackie about, you're putting this face on this profile or this NFL franchise, but you got to keep in mind there's people from our nations that don't appreciate it. But Earl backed him because he knew that they wouldn't change anything. They would keep that profile and that name and use it the right way. That's how my grandfather always wanted it. When that all started to shift and we could see where the direction was going in our country, it was concerning for the Wetzel family on how fast everything was moving. We were not really thinking that this was going to happen, to be honest. We didn't think that at the time Dan Snyder would change the logo or name. And in fact, we never even caught wind of it. Nobody reached out to the Wetzel family. My father at the time was still alive, and we were a little frustrated, to say the least, that there wasn't a representation from the Wetzel family there to help side with Dan Snyder, saying, "Hey, this logo is actually from a tribal member." The story had been out and pushed, and people understood that Blackie Wetzel was the man behind it, but there was no, at that time, someone standing next to Snyder and the organization saying, let's look at this, long term. Let's look at how we can keep this going, the name, the logo. But it was I feel poorly managed from that very top seat and all the way down, and it affected our family greatly. And it was upsetting in the fact that you have a Native American family at this platform that we can utilize this stuff to help impact communities, rural American Indian reservations, all these different things now gone. And it was something that was devastating, and to say the least, and not only for my family, but the fan base throughout DC and internationally. When people knew of the family lineage enough, I'd receive emails from random people in Paris, people in LA, people just saying, "Hey, our hearts are broken. We wish the logo was back." It never got, the name and logo never being taken down. It's unfortunate, but with that connection with George Floyd, I saw everything unfolding. It was tragic and unfortunate, and to be kind of linked to that in a way, it puts kind of a bad taste in our mouth as the Wetzel family, because we don't want to be linked to something that's so negative and sad and unfortunate. But this happened that way, so it was tough on us. When I got that phone call, um, it was surreal in a sense that, going back to when my father was passing away last March, he was laying on his deathbed and he was within a few hours of passing away. And I sat by his bedside, and it was just he and I in the medical room. And he said, he was kind of making peace with things. And he said, "Ryan, no matter what, you need to continue to fight to gain a respect and appreciation for your grandfather, Blackie Wetzel. You need to continue to do that. You need to continue to stand up and fight for the Wetzel family and the Blackfeet Nation. You need to make sure that our story is told. And when my time is done, it's going to be your turn." And I took that, and I said to myself, "It's my time now. I'm the next one in line." And here I come, reaching out to local media outlets, trying to get this thing, this story told, and that we want to make sure that this logo is not retired and canceled. We want to make sure that this story and Blackie's story is told and shared. With all that effort that I've put into it, it was nice to see in the beginning of this year, I was contacted by representation of Danes's office, and we had a conversation. And then, fast forward through to these conversations I've had. When Danes called me that night before and told me that, he was gonna block this bill until the NFL and the Commanders make it right with the Wetzel family in Blackfeet Nation, it hit me, and it made me realize that the efforts that have been put forth with my father, Don Wetzel, the efforts that I've been putting forward with everything since my dad's passing is now being heard. And it was an emotional experience, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, we had someone that had the leverage to help put the light on the subject that is so important to a family from Montana. It was such an honor, and I'll be forever grateful for Senator Daines and his family and his advisors at Capitol Hill, for making sure that Blackie Wetzel's heard, the Blackfeet Nation's heard, and his constituents in Montana overall. It's a wonderful thing. It was great. You know what? Coach needed to rep that, man. It made me smile. It made me think of my father and my grandfather. They had great sense of humors, man, and they liked to tease people. And I felt like in a way it was my grandfather, my father in spirit somehow convincing this guy to put these feathers on this W. It went from an ugly W to a beautiful W. And it was such a beautiful thing. And it sent the whole nation in a frenzy. What was this going on? And I loved it. I think it was comical in a sense, but wonderful. Like that's what you need. You need to add a little native flavor to this whole thing, man, because this W is ugly. So I loved it. And I had family and friends reaching out to me, and it was all over. It was just social media. Like, look, Ryan Wetzel, take a peek. Look, they're bringing it back. I mean, there was all these misconceptions, and unfortunately, he had to get on the stage to explain, or media in front of cameras and stuff, and say, hey, look, no, I was unsanctioned. I apologize. Oh, the Wetzel family was paying attention. You damn right we were. We were watching the whole thing. I said, look at this, man. That's great. Not at all. It needs to be, where is this logo going to sit? That was fun to see that little bit, and it was also uh, unfortunate because that was something that was so near and dear to my family and my grandfather. It was just a little blip of hope, but this logo is bigger than that. It's more beautiful and prominent. It's strong. It's confident. It's a representation of the First Nations. That did not satisfy me, nor would it. It needs to be this profile, this logo that's been in place for 50 plus year or 50 years. And that needs to be somewhere on the market for fans worldwide to be able to still represent the Blackfeet Nation, the Wetzel family, and we bless them with that. We would love to see it somewhere, some way, uh, because we can't forget, this story. We cannot forget who this man was. Blackie Wetzel's an American hero. A lot of people have no idea that, my grandfather was taken off the reservation at 5 to 7 years old, around in there, and placed in an institution, a boarding school in uh, Haskell Institute in Kansas. He had to jump a train. It took him multiple attempts to get back to Blackfeet country, and he was just a young kid, to moving forward in his life, seeing all the tough and unfortunate situations that the Native American communities were having at that time, and becoming the man that he is today, with the stories being told. Uh, that's what that logo represents. And two little feathers on that W, that ain't nothing. That's just a little teaser. We need that logo somewhere prominent and people taking pride in it, because that's what my grandfather represented, was strength and pride. The talks with the team have been wonderful. They're open-minded. They're 10 times better than the Snyder organization. And the thing is, they're willing to hear the story from myself and family, and hear the story of what this whole piece of history means to us. And now, moving forward, the hope is, that we continue this logo's existence, not canceling it and shutting it down, but utilizing it in some way. How does that work? That's the conversations that we're having. Not to get too far into it, but they now have a better understanding than they ever had, and they realize that this is a symbolic piece of history to the Wetzel family, and they now fully understand that, there's huge meaning and purpose, uh, behind it, and that right there is enough for them to continue conversations with us, in hopes that we can promote it in some way or form or fashion. That's our conversations we're having right now. and I'm staying hopeful. Not to get too far into it, there is a wonderful thing that's on the horizon in honoring my grandfather and our family. um, and it pertains to the logo and everything like that. But it's a telling story that the commanders are willing to share, and it's something that I feel is long overdue. It's more of a permanent recognition of sorts, and not to get too far into it. Our family is fortunate to be a part of it, and you will be able to see us in person. We will say that you know the connection to this logo and the reality of it and who these people are is meaning our family is something that the community in DC and internationally will get to see. And as we represent our family, the commanders are backing it 100%. So yeah, it'll be happening coming up here this next season where there's going to be an opportunity for us to honor my grandfather in a way that will be more permanent within the organization, and for DC and Commander fans uh, around the area we get to celebrate. It's first steps. When you look at satisfaction and everything that goes along with this story, it's something that it's not the end all be all. It's the beginning. And so our hope is as we move forward, this is one of those nice steps forward in honoring Blackie Wetzel. But long term, we are still in conversation of what that actually looks like, and it's hopeful. It's exciting. Both sides, the Wetzel family, myself, the organization, in the entirety, they're listening, and they see a bigger a bigger opportunity here than just you know this season. And we're looking at it more long term. Really, it's all about the historical components to this team and franchise, and that if they're true fans, which I know they are, and they're all over the place, I ask that you just be patient as we start to navigate, because really I know a lot of fans out there that love that team simply for that logo, simply for that old name. And those are the true fans that understand that the Wetzels are speaking for them, trying to get this thing out. And so hang in there with us, because we're doing this for you guys. We're doing this for our nation. Really, this is something that is a point of pride, and a lot of our fans out there and internationally understand that this is for them as well. And so just to understand, we're doing something that is near and dear to their hearts. A lot of people that have reached out to me said they've reached out to me and said they're so appreciative of me standing my ground, and thankful that Senator Daines has brought this to the forefront, with the understanding that this was not just a caricature. This was an actual motivation from a Blackfeet tribal member. And so in that whole sense, they just need to hang in there with us. And it's moving forward, and it's exciting, and it's something that hopefully one of these days we'll be able to see that logo somewhere in the franchise, in the NFL, ready for sale, something like that. So, and it's moving. It's exciting. Things are looking up.